It is your Classic Metal Show right here on theclassicmetalshow.com. That really wasn't metal. That was kind of laid back a little bit, but excellent stuff there. It's brand new from Myles Kennedy. The name of the song is The Great Beyond. It's from his album, The Year of the Tiger. And on the line right now is the one and only singer and guitarist of this record. It is Myles Kennedy. Myles, how are you?
Chris, I'm great. Thanks for having me, man.
Sure, dude. Well, Myles, I'm going to start right off by saying you are quickly becoming one of those guys that is completely unpredictable. You know, whether it's Alter Bridge being completely different from what you do with Slash, and now you're doing something that's almost roots rock type of bass acoustic thing. You're a hard guy to figure out, sir.
My mom's been saying that for years. I'm an odd duck.
Excellent, man. Well, dude, I gotta say, I love the record. It's obviously very, very personal to you. For people that don't know, it's being called a concept record that's based on the death of your father, who died very early in your life. Talk a little bit about your decision not only to share this story with the masses, but the difficulty that kind of causes when you let something that close and that real to yourself, you know, kind of take center stage in the public eye.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly you're certainly putting a lot of yourself out there, a lot of your family's history out there, and I did struggle with that to some degree as I was writing the record, wondering if that will, you know, how's that going to play out. But what's interesting as a creative person, oftentimes you're so drawn to whatever you feel is really real and inspiring in telling you, you know, kind of speaking to you and needing to get out. So you tend to just follow that as opposed to the other voice that will, you know, kind of the voice of reason saying, are you sure you want to do this? And this is very personal. And so oftentimes I kind of knock that person off my shoulder and just listen to that internal muse, whatever that is, and go there. So, you know, now that I've completed it and it's done and people have the record, and I feel like it was the right thing to do. And I think that, especially after people in my family heard it, and gave me the thumbs up and their approval, that was one of my biggest concerns, was how's my mother going to react to this record? She's been very supportive. So yeah, in the end, it was a good thing.
Now you mentioned that your mom has been supportive. I'm going to give you a similar story, but certainly not on the level of what you're doing. Is I wrote a book that dealt with a year in my life where I went through both a divorce after a really long time, as well as my dad dying right in the middle of it. So, you know, I can relate sort of to what you're saying. And the hardest part for me was not what people perceived, you know, people that listen to the radio show or whatever, but it was things with close friends and family where they didn't necessarily like what I had said, or they didn't agree with it. Did you have any of that at all where people pushed back or were like, oh man, I wish you wouldn't have gone there, or I wish you wouldn't have shared that, or stuff like that?
You know, not yet. And it's interesting you should articulate it that way, because that was my big concern.
Sure.
Was someone saying, I wish you wouldn't have shared that. And I tried to be respectful of that part of the equation. You know, it's interesting because a lot of this record, though it deals with my father passing away and some of my feelings about that and my frustration, because he was a Christian Scientist and he didn't believe in seeking out medical attention, so he didn't have to die from what he died from. And so that's always been something that's been frustrating for me, and I had to work through some of that. But a lot of this record, and that was the part where I was concerned with some of my family members, how they might feel. But a lot of the record is a tribute to my mother, and it's a tribute to her fortitude through the whole process, and how she was able to keep her head on straight after he passed away, and look out for my little brother and I, and, you know, start over and help give us a good life. And so, you know, I think that balancing those two parts of the equation is part of why this record works. I think if it had been a record strictly just woe is me, I'm upset with how things played out. Where's my dad? I think that would become a little redundant and a bit of a downer. And I wanted to kind of juxtapose that with the positive aspect, which was that, life goes on.
Right. Certainly, man. Well, and it's always interesting to me when people write a concept record, and I'll point this 100% to you more than most. You wrote a concept record at a time when you're perceived as one of the busiest guys, in the rock world right now. When you have Alter Bridge, obviously, and you have Slash, when Slash, is doing the Conspirators thing. And yet you found time to not only write a record, but write something this personal and something so atypical to everything else that people have heard from you. It's quite a tribute to, where you not only were able to find the time, but were able to kind of focus a direction away from what your main projects are.
Yeah, I think that I was afforded that luxury because there was a window of time last year, and generally speaking, if there are lulls, if I'm not touring or making records with the other two bands, I'm not real good at just sitting around. I try,
right?
But what I love to do is make music, and I do. My mantra is, a day without making music is a wasted day. So I really try to live by that, and as long as I can still make music, I'll be doing it.
Sure. When was the last time you had a day where you did not put your hands on a guitar?
Just a few weeks ago, actually. It's interesting because I got off this last U.S. run, and I got home and I told myself I was going to do some chores. The honeydew list was long, so I started power washing the house and painting. There was a fence that needed to be painted and a lot of painting. So on those days, I did not touch a guitar.
Sure. Wow. Yeah. It's funny because I've asked that question to a lot of guys that play guitar, and some of them will say 2 decades or not since I got a guitar. It's funny that you actually have it's funny that you have an actual, it wasn't that long ago.
I actually find that it helps me a lot if I set it down for a day or two, because I feel like if I play too much, I get a little stale. So sometimes it's a good thing.
Sure, definitely, man. Now, Myles, with any artist and singer and guitar player such as yourself that kind of has a main band, and you obviously have 2 very big main bands, when you do something outside of that universe of whichever band, it tends to leave fans, I don't know, disappointed, and that's not a good word, but disappointed in a way, because the music that you create does not remind them of the main stuff. Did you feel that, and more to that, did you even worry about that at all?
Well, sure. I think that initially, once I was deep into writing the Year of the Tiger, because it was definitely more acoustic based, that thought crossed my mind, was how are people going to be responding to this who are used to hearing me sing over the top of things that are very guitar driven, in high gain guitar, not just acoustic guitar. But I think that because it was something that I needed to do, there was this little voice in my head saying, don't be apologetic about this. This is just something you need to do. You've got to do it for your own creative impulses, and you need to fulfill this. And it's going to be good for you in the long run, because then when you get back to making the music that you're known for, you'll kind of clean the slate, and you'll go into it with a fresh perspective. What I don't think I was aware of was how, or I shouldn't say aware of, but I didn't know whether it was going to be received in a positive sense from a lot of those fans,
sure,
who are used to hearing me in these other genres. And I was pleasantly surprised, so much so that I'll definitely be doing more of this in the future. The people were very, very, very cool, and it really means a lot to me.
Sure. It
shows me that they have an open mind, which is really, really awesome.
No doubt, man. And one of the things that really stands out on this record too is that you aside from just putting your life out there on the line, You also took some creative, I don't want to say risks, but you at least experimented. I'll point to a song like Blind Faith, which maybe vocally, obviously it sounds like you, but from the guitar perspective, it's something completely different than you've ever been associated with, at least to my ears.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that song was like a few songs on the record, inspired by one of my favorite artists of all time. Somebody you may not have heard of, or some of your listeners may not have heard of, but his name is Chris Whitley, and he was an artist I discovered in the '90s, and he played the resonator, and through him I developed this love for that instrument, and so that's a track that was born on the resonator. Now, resonator guitar is one of those steel guitars. It's like the one on the cover of the Brothers in Arms album that Dire Straits did back. Yeah, and they just have a real distinct sound. And to me, they're not only do they look really cool, but they sound amazing. They just do something that an acoustic guitar or an electric guitar doesn't do. So yeah, that's definitely a tip of the hat to Chris Whitley.
No question, man. Now, obviously, in the last couple of months, in between gigs, you found a way to write and complete work on a new Slash record as well. Talk about that material. Is it pretty much what we've come to know and expect from the Conspirators?
Yeah, it has those sonic hallmarks, I think, that has started to evolve on Apocalyptic Love, and it's a very it's 12 songs, and there aren't a lot of like epic journeys. Like we had more of the epic side of things on the World on Fire record. These are very concise and there's an up-tempo quality to a lot of the tracks that I think bode well for this band. So yeah, we're excited to put it out there and do some touring on it. Should be fun.
Sure, and I saw that you announced what, 2 months of touring. Is that the only touring you're going to get to do, or will there be more, as time permits? Or
yeah, I'm sure there'll be more. It's still in the works. They're trying to get all that stuff sorted out for next year. Obviously, there are just a lot of moving parts.
Sure.
Just reconvening next year, and we'll see what happens with the GNR camp. So there's a lot to. A lot of things to juggle, but they'll make something happen.
No doubt. Now, I got to ask you real quick, and I don't want to get into a whole Slash thing, but not a secret at all that Slash is coming off his most successful touring opportunity ever of his career with, the
Correct.
ridiculous amounts of money that Guns N' Roses made, and, the unprecedented success that I don't think anybody saw, really coming like that. With that in mind, did you ever have a moment where you were like, he might not be back to do this anymore?
I wasn't sure, to be honest, because I knew he loved making music in this context. But obviously, yeah, that thing's been so successful to where it was when people would always ask me, during interviews, so what's going to happen with SMKC? And it just got to the point where I would say, time will tell. Anything's possible. But obviously, with the success of that machine, it was just impossible to know what was going to come about as far as the future for this band. So somehow we managed to get another record in.
Excellent, very good, and our fans can't wait for that because World on Fire was pretty amazing, at least in my ears.
Thanks, Chris. Appreciate that, man.
Well, Myles, talk a little bit about how the shows have gone so far. I know you've played some gigs for Year of the Tiger, and I know you have more. You're getting ready to go to Europe to play some more. How have those shows gone, and do you feel almost, naked, for lack of a better word, being up there, as you versus having the incredible players of your other two bands?
It's really interesting because I'll never forget the first gig I did on this tour for the Year of the Tiger was down in South Africa, and it was a little bigger room, I think than I thought I'd be starting with for my first show. It was like I think there's over 2,000 people, something like that. It was, and I remember standing at the side of the stage and thinking, I got to go out there and entertain people for the next 2 hours with just an acoustic guitar and some resonators. How is this going to work, And it was strange because with the task at hand, I didn't really feel nervous. I just kind of felt it felt very comfortable. And I don't know if it was from years and years way back in the day of going out and playing with an acoustic guitar. I used to show up at coffee shops, or if someone had a wedding reception, and hey, can you sing this song? And I'd play some acoustic guitar. I think it's kind of like getting back to the beginning for me. I just did so much of that. It's kind of home. So what's been interesting about this tour is that a lot of fans have commented on that to me after the shows. We're like, you just seem really comfortable up there. You really seem like you're in your element. And I guess it's just because it's something that I did for so long, many years ago. I was just like putting on an old pair of shoes.
Sure. And to be fair, it is something that you still do at least a little bit in all the Alter Bridge shows as well. When you do Watch Over You, in the set,
correct,
where it's basically just you. So I guess it wasn't that foreign.
That's true. That's a good point. So it was kind of like, doing that, and sometimes I would do Wonderful Life as well. Doing that for as long as I have, and the stripped down approach with Alter Bridge, I think probably set me up, prepared me for this again.
Sure, no doubt. Well, Myles, the new record is called Year of the Tiger. People need to check it out. It is a fantastic record, especially if you like acoustic-based, soulful, bluesy type of rock music. Where can people go online to keep up with you and tour dates and everything going on in your world?
Well, we try to keep all of our social media happening, official Myles Kennedy at Instagram and Twitter and whatnot. And then we have the MylesKennedy.com, which you can, check out all the tour dates and any other things on there, merch, whatnot. So yeah, it's all out there on the old interweb.
There we go. Perfect. Well, Myles, you've done this with me before, man. Pick a closing track from the record and maybe tell people a story about it to wrap this one up.
Sure. I'm going to pick the Year of the Tiger, the title track. And what's interesting about this tune is that the genesis of the idea came about years ago when I was working on my lawn. I was just kind of puttering about out there, and I heard this melody and this lyric, in the year of the tiger, won't weep alone, got no time for cooling heels, I've got to roam. And I was like, I don't know where that came from, but I like it, and I recorded it onto my phone. And I didn't know what it meant. I didn't even know what the Year of the Tiger was. And
right.
So when I started to tackle what the theme of this record was going to be about, I remembered that idea. And when I looked up on the Chinese zodiac what the Year of the Tiger was, it just so happened to be the same year that my father passed away. And I was like, wow, if that isn't the universe telling me that I should tackle this theme of loss as a child, then I don't know what it is. So this really was the beginning.
Well, I don't know if you're a rock star or not anymore, man. So far you talked about cutting grass, painting fences, and honeydew lists.
Well, I'm telling you, man, when the music thing ends, I'm going to start a lawn business.
Well, for now, let's not let it end. This is brand new stuff from Myles Kennedy. It's the title track from The Year of the Tiger right here on your Classic Metal Show.